Welcome to the Heaven on Earth podcast, a world where you study the story you were born into and redesign it into the story you choose. A world where you can have heaven on earth right here, right now, no matter the past. For me, heaven on earth is a holistic experience, leading with the heart, engaging with mind, body, and spirit. It's mindful, fostering calm and secure attachments. As we rise into consciousness, it's an earthly journey where we sensually embrace dynamic living. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heaven on Earth podcast. We're this tiny little village. We don't have infrastructure yet. We don't have running water. We don't have electricity because we are starting this concept. And the more of you that join me in creating this new neural net, these new neural pathways, these new beliefs, this new paradigm of heaven on earth, the more we'll be able to pave our roads and build our tiny homes and be a community that believes in this. So welcome to Heaven on Earth. And let's get your coffee. I hope you have your coffee or your tea or your water or your electrolytes. Get your journal, get your pen, because as always, this is a PhD on you, because it all starts with you. It all starts with us, and then we ripple it out. So let me introduce myself really quickly. And listen, I have my coffee, so I'll be sipping on that. And just know que vamos pa largo, which always means this is going to be a juicy, thick, rich, long podcast because there's a lot to learn. And I'm here to teach it, and I'm here to study it with you. Okay, vamos pa largo. So let me introduce myself. I'm Claudia Cauterucci. I am Colombian and American and multilingual. And what I mean by multilingual is that I approach, whether I'm doing my psychotherapy sessions or my other programs, from a multidimensional perspective. And that means that I put any topic in the middle of the table and we talk about it spiritually, psychologically, scientifically, biologically, evolutionarily. We slang, we talk street, we talk about it in all the ways possible. We just put it in the middle of the table. And that's my multilingualism. And I am also a holistic healer, which means that I believe in the alignment of the mind, the body, the spirit, and the heart. But we lead with the heart, and 2024 is about really being in touch with leading with the heart. My day job is that I've been a psychotherapist here in Washington, D.C. for over 24 years. I started in downtown Washington, D.C. Now I work virtually. I identify, and the reason why I keep repeating this is because I want people to get this. I identify as a colorful person, not a person of color. I know when I moved to the United States, term that people use, that person of color, for people who were Latino or Black or brown or immigrants or from other countries. I identify as a colorful person because we are all colorful humans. And what that means, and my focus and my emphasis in Heaven on Earth is an emphasis on humanity, and humans are colorful. We're expressive, we have rhythm, we have pulsating bodies, we have different ways of expressing ourselves. We are a colorful people. We are a colorful humanity, and that's how I want to identify moving forward. So I am known in my community for having developed the dynamic re-evolution curriculum. And it goes in stages, or you can jump in at different points. But the way that I talk about the dynamic re-evolution curriculum is that it starts first with yourself. And for yourself, we have the dynamic meditation method, which is a self-healing modality. It's practical, it's portable, it's all about knowing yourself and regulating and calibrating your feelings because it starts with you. And by the way, that tagline for dynamic meditation method is heal yourself, heal the planet, because you healing yourself causes ripples. Number 2, wealth from within. The tagline for that is inner journey, outer abundance. And that is when we start moving from the self and moving into community, moving with others. And the wealth from within community is amazing. They are gold. They are high IQ, high EQ, lots of studying, lots of reflection, lots of inner work. It's an amazing community. I feel like I'm teaching there, but I'm not the protagonist. The protagonist is the community of wealth from within, and a lot of them are from the community of dynamic meditation method. Please come, you're welcome. But again, we start with the individual, we move to the community, and the third part is the empath leader training, which is, most of you know, I'm co-authoring a book. It's about to drop March 15th. So please keep a lookout for that. And the empath leader training actually starts on March 13th. So there are still spots available. Please reach out to me directly if you're interested. And today we're really going to talk about why the empath leader is so essential. And if you've been watching my podcast, the way that I do it is I do one podcast. It's me solo teaching, sharing, studying concepts. And the next one is me with somebody else where I interview. And so far, I've interviewed empath leaders. And if you haven't caught those, they're just amazing, amazing. So please do go back, check it out, find out what this is about. And then the last part of the dynamic re-evolution curriculum is heaven on earth, because that's what we're reaching for. It's this podcast. And that is my broader, higher mission, not only for myself personally, which is how do I live a heaven on earth life, but how do I also motivate and inspire other people to live a heaven on earth life. That's the deal. We believe in trauma rising, which means that we're slowly healing ourselves and leaving trauma behind. Because in order to live in heaven on earth, to create this new paradigm, we have to really dig deep and work through our trauma. Okay. Let's start. And let's start by doing an arriving breath. Even if it feels weird and awkward for you, go ahead and do it. And what I want you to picture is you really sitting inside your body as you breathe. And let's do another arriving breath. Part of this new heaven on earth life is being embodied, is being able to sit in our bodies without dissociation, without people pleasing, without being obsessed with the external world. And a really quick and easy way to do that is with the breath. Lean back and arrive in your body. The theme for today is that we are at war. We are in a battle of frequencies, of energies. We are in a battle of vibrations, and they're very war-like. There's a war vibe. Now, there's a war inside ourselves, and there's a war out there, and it's amping up. The war frequency is amping up. So, what I'd like to invite you, let's start this podcast by inviting you to think outside the box. You know how I have my notes? I have a ton of notes on legal paper for those of you that remember legal paper. You already know what's inside the box. It's what you live every single day. We are being asked as a humanity to pop outside of the box. And situations like the pandemic had to pop us outside of the box because we have to have a new way of thinking, because we are caught up in a war of frequencies. So the way you want to be able to, let me just give you some thoughts about thinking outside of the box. The way that you want to be doing that is not so much by having an image or having a visual just yet. It's by saying, how do I want to feel? What is the essence of what I'm looking for? Do I want a frequency, a vibration of war, of conflict, or do I want a frequency of abundance, of peace, of connection? Let's just start there. I'm inviting you, please relax, shake it out, shake it out. And can we think outside of the box? Part of what we are tasked with as a humanity right now is to imagine, embody, and create. We need to begin to imagine a new way of living, of being as a humanity. Because as you already know, all you have to do is turn on the news, politically, governments, the planet. It's getting wacky, and 2024 is going to be wackier. So today we're going to talk about what we're going to do about that. Remember that everything, check it out, everything that we see today, planes, cars, homes, smartphones, everything that we see today was imagined first. Montessori schools, everything, skyscrapers, everything that we see around us today was imagined first. So the human technology that we've got, our human technology of imagination, it's a gift, is what begins to create worlds. It's what begins to create realities. Let's start there. What we imagine begins to amass energy. It begins to pull from the ethers and it begins to set creation into motion. That's how we got all of that metal up into skies that we call planes, that we call flying. That's how we learned to call each other across the Atlantic Ocean, because someone imagined that first. Start with the essence. Start with imagination. What do I want to feel? And what type of world, what type of existence am I imagining? We already know, and in all my podcasts, I've been talking about these massive planetary changes. We are in the thick of it. We need right now radical change. When I talk, for example, you might have heard me in other podcasts talk about 3D or the three-dimensional existence. And all that means is we are in an existence right now. So inside of the box, picture inside of the box. We think linearly, and it's pretty rigid. We're pretty tight around that. And so it looks like past, present, and future. And we can't imagine that there might be multiple options of a way of existing other than this line, this rigid line of this is our past, therefore it creates our present, and therefore it creates our future. We can't think that there might be parallel options or parallel timelines where we can choose how to exist differently, no matter what our past was. That's my whole thing. That's trauma rising. No matter what your past is or was, we can still reach for your heaven on earth. Oh, part of the three-dimensional living, or part of living inside the box that we're in, is very rigid dualistic thinking. Something is either good or bad, right or wrong. It's either evil or angelic. So it doesn't leave us much room. It's tight, again, tight box. When I'm talking about the 3D life, I'm talking about like this very dense reality that's rigid and it's material, and it doesn't allow for us expanding into higher consciousness. So part of the shift that we're in, human shift, is that we're beginning to realize, and this happened a lot post-pandemic, that we're actually more connected than we think, that we're actually part of one source. For some of you, we might call this oneness, that we're actually part of the whole. And I certainly subscribe to that we are each, even though we're individual and unique, we're actually each part of a human body. And that each of us, each role that we play, parts of the body, is unique. That's why our uniqueness and our authenticity matters, but we are part of a whole. What's happening in this planetary awakening is that people are realizing, wait, we're part of something grander and bigger. Now, check it out. The pandemic forced us to see that we're all humans impacted by a planetary situation. By the way, war forces us to do that too. So that's coming. This podcast is about the frequency of war. I'm introducing you maybe to the idea that we have life levels. That as we evolve and grow, we move up levels, we up level. And that's what evolution is about, is that we up level. But when we up level, when we reach for our next layer of evolution, whether that's for you individually or for us as a humanity, I want you to remember that it gets turbulent. You know how when a plane is taking off and it's rising, there's certain clouds it has to go through, so it moves before it can get up to, let's say, 36,000 feet, and it finds a stable, calmer place to fly. That's what planes do all the time. Guess what? That's what we do. It's the video game of life. Anytime we're going to move to the next level, this happens with children. When they move from crawling to standing, they're going to fall. That level of turbulence exists for all of us in a marriage. When our children are growing, there's moments that it gets turbulent. This isn't a test, it's a choice. For example, 2023 and 2022 floored me. Hard years. There were so many things coming at me, but because I had this consciousness, and maybe you're thinking right now, me too. It's been some hard 4 years. If you have the consciousness that you're up leveling, that everything that's coming at you and at the planet, remember, the all is in the small and the small is in the all, is that Earth itself, humanity itself, your personal life itself is moving to a different place. This is not a test. The obstacles, the turbulence are not a test. They are a choice. I'm going to look at you. They are a choice. So you can always opt to stay below your level or within the same level that you're in. Or you can say, I'm going to push through this turbulent period and choose for higher. And there's no judgment, whatever you choose. It doesn't matter because it's your life. It's your life. But just be conscious that you're choosing, and let us be conscious that as a humanity we're choosing. But get this, as we're up leveling, as we're moving through that turbulence, there are things we need. I talk about it all the time. We need the toolkit. We need faith. Basically, we need the belief, a paradigm that says that things get better. That even though we're crawling our way through some of our life moments, things get better. And for us as a humanity, things get better only if we have consciousness and awareness. So we need faith, we need tools, we need gratitude. And what do I mean about gratitude? It's being aware that we are given an opportunity to rise, to trauma rise, to rise into higher awareness and consciousness. And some of it is hard. We get hit hard. I got hit so hard in the last 2 years. And what did I do? I sought out community because we're not doing this alone. We cannot do this alone as humans. I used all of my meditation tools, my therapy tools, my healing tools to get myself through it. And I used my faith, my belief that there is a higher consciousness, a God, that I have access to the quantum field to help me up level. So whatever is happening to us, if you've been through some hard years, and you probably have, man, it has been brutal. But it's not just you, it's all of humanity. So we are being asked for something. Okay, so let me take my cafecito, everyone, cafecito. We're entering into the era of emotions. Remember, there was the industrial era. Before that was the agrarian era. There was the era of information, the fax, the internet, cellular phones, cable TV that now has become streaming platforms. The era of the mind, which gave us neuroscience and meditation and creating through the power of the mind. Now we are entering, mark my words, because I'm not hearing about it yet, but I'm coining it, that we're entering into the era of emotions. And what's super important about this, as I'm writing the Empath Leader book and as I'm talking about the importance of empaths, let me pull all the dots together for you. Humans have emotions. We have this operating system inside of us that are emotions. Now, humans have had emotions since the beginning of being human. The thing is, we haven't studied our emotions. We haven't learned to use it as a calibrating system, as a regulating system. It's like we're thrown into planet Earth without instructions on these emotions, on this amazing operating system that we have. Because emotions are messengers. They tell us if something, is there danger? Am I in love? Am I in lust? Right? Am I sad? Do I need to move something out of my body? Emotions are messengers. The thing is, we don't have the instruction manual until now. Because now there are so many modalities, including mine, the dynamic meditation method, which is exactly about regulation and calibration. It's an instruction manual on how to handle emotions. So we've been spastic with our emotions. And get this, in the frequency of war, begins with spastic emotions, begins with anger gone askew. Begins with anger fermenting into resentment. That is the beginning of the frequency of war. This is why emotions and emotional calibration and getting the instruction manual on your emotions and how to handle them through therapy, how to clean your body of these emotions is so essential today. Regulation is key. How do we learn how to manage and handle our emotions? Because when we know how to regulate and calibrate our emotions, parents, mommy, daddy, when we learn, teenagers, how to handle, how to feel our emotions, but maybe not act on them, but we feel them. We cry, we have it move through our body so that it doesn't become lodged in our body and shows up when we're 50, shows up in the divorce, shows up when we're screaming at the driver next to us, shows up in the Middle East, shows up in the Ukraine, shows up in civil war, shows up in my country in Colombia, violence everywhere. We are entering the era of emotions, and what that means is we're going to study our emotions as a way to become a more peaceful humanity. Now get this, in the era of AI, humans are so worried about AI, we got to love AI. It's just part of our evolution. And the difference between us and artificial intelligence is that we feel. We have emotions. It is what makes us human. So remember that accumulated emotions, please think of yourself right now. Write this down. Accumulated emotions is combustible. It's explosive. It forms into cancer. It forms into autoimmune diseases. When we have an autoimmune disease, ask yourself, how stressed am I? So think of it this way. Every emotion has an energetic field, has an energetic tone or texture. Every emotion. When I teach dynamic meditation, we talk about ag flap, the bottom being apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, pride. That's very, very simplistic. But ag flap is a ladder of emotions, but it's charted by energetic levels. If you're in apathy, meaning if you're in depression, it's heavy. It's no wonder depressed people, when I've been depressed, who wants to move? Who wants to leave the bed? Your energetic molecules are heavy. They're dense. That's the energy of apathy. When you move up into grief, at least we're crying, there's more movement. There's more energy in grief. When you move up into fear, which is how the world, everyone around the globe, every human is run by fear, and we're fed fear. We're fed fear. But fear has more movement. We're more hypervigilant. We're more alert. So I want you to think of emotions on an energetic scale. And there's lots of resources. DM me, drop a question. Where can I find these resources? And I'll send it to you. There are so many combinations. This is the gift, especially today, is that there's a ton of instruction manuals out there. I personally believe that the dynamic meditation method, because I've seen it work with so many of my clients who have clinical post-traumatic stress disorder, they have general anxiety disorder, they have severe suicidal depression, dynamic meditation method has helped them incredibly, because I address this. I address the way that our energetic emotions get lodged in our body. So today, there is no excuse, my loves, no excuse for not managing your anxiety, your depression, no excuse in this way. We have access to free resources. We have YouTube University. We have Instagram. There's so many teachers giving us free information, including me, on how to calibrate and regulate our emotions. Why? Because we want to master ourselves. We want to have a PhD on ourselves. And it is the time to do it in the era of emotions. And it is one of the ways that we will get out of the frequency of war. And it starts with you asking yourself, what am I feeling? What's happening right now? The way that I hold it is part of what we are being tasked as a humanity to master is compassion, empathy. We were given this compassion, care, and empathy, and I use it interchangeably as a way of helping other humans survive, of getting us out of the extinction paradigm. When we stop having compassion, empathy, and care, let's get mechanical, let's get technical. We don't care if someone else gets hurt, gets beaten, gets murdered, gets tortured, gets killed. We don't care. We are asked right now to master the feelings as a humanity of compassion and care. In the book and in general, I write that care, one human caring for another human, not loving. Sometimes we don't have to love. Sometimes we help the smaller older lady move, or we offer a chair on the bus. The Underground Railroad was because people cared. People who sheltered Jewish people during the 1940s was because there were people who cared. So I posit and I propose that it's actually care that has helped our species survive. It has kept us out of extinction. So we are here to actually nurture, develop like we would any muscle, care and compassion, regulate it. And empaths, this is really important for you. It doesn't mean we're bleeding ourselves out or depleting ourselves. And when you see my interview with other empaths, and when you hopefully buy the book, you'll see what I mean by this. An eye for an eye is not working. It's killing us. The history and all of humanity, this has been 40,000 years of this paradigm, an eye for an eye. Listen, I'm not saying, because I've learned it in myself, that vengeance doesn't feel pleasurable or good, especially when we have felt powerless, demeaned, subjugated. I'm just saying that as a humanity, it's gonna kill us. We are moving into war, like war-driven extinction. So let's hold that, because we are going to talk about why an eye for an eye had us for so many thousands of years. What I'm proposing is that we're moving into something new and different, so that the boat doesn't crash into the glacier, because that's where we're going. We're going to crash and burn if we don't turn this ship around. So we're in the middle of frequency wars. There's a lot of energy out there, and you can feel it. Just turn on the news. You can feel the frequency wars. You can feel that there's all sorts of organizations and entities that are trying to get our attention, that are vying for our frequency. They are vying to have some control over how we are feeling. If we're in fear, it's easier to control us. If we're in anger, spastic anger, well, it's easier to dismiss us. Just know that right now, wherever you put your eyes and wherever you allow yourself to have feelings, you are entering a frequency, and there are entities out there that want us to have those frequencies. Are you understanding the importance of you knowing what you feel, what you want to feel is really, really important. And this is when we are embodied humans. There are entities out there, external ones, that are competing for our vibration, for our frequency of thoughts, of emotions, and of our bodily structure. That's what we're dealing with. We think, what we feel, and what we're doing with our bodies. Those are the war frequencies out there. Unless we go inside, because it starts with us. I get repetitive only because I really want this. It starts with us. It starts with you deciding, what do I want to think? What do I want to feel? How do I want to treat my body? Because it's very easy for outside frequencies, especially the ones that are driven by war, to want to take over our thoughts, our feelings, and our bodies. So the antidote is to realize the power of the mind and to master and teach ourselves how to focus. This is the whole thing with meditation. How we want to think, the analysis of the paradigms that we're living in, and how we're going to be the choosers of those paradigms. Emotional calibration is another antidote for the frequency of war, and embodiment. Basically, the coming home to our body. Now, the whole planet, all of TikTok, all of Instagram, the news, everyone, YouTube, LinkedIn is talking about modalities, breath work, yoga, hot yoga, all sorts of modalities. Psychedelic psychotherapy, all sorts of psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is no longer taboo. We can master our minds, master our emotions, and embody, come back into our bodies, not be dissociated. Really take this down and write it in caps. We are here to master our responses, because by mastering our responses, we get to choose the frequency that we're in, that we are sustaining. So ask yourself, what frequency am I most commonly in? Am I in anger? Am I in fear? Am I in grace? Am I in gratitude? What are my practices that allow me, permit me, and help me choose my own frequency, my conscious frequency? Am I in fear all the time? Fear is a tricky one. Fear, I think, leads us to war, and it's contagious. It's so contagious, because what fear keeps saying is, I'm in danger, I'm in danger, I'm in danger. And then I'm contagious to my kids. And then I'm contagious to if I'm always hypervigilant about the danger that's coming, the danger in my future, I'm going to be alert. I'm going to be ready for attack. I'm going to be ready for defense. That is a frequency of war. What helps? Consciousness, awareness, anything. This podcast helps. Meditation helps. Psychotherapies helps. 12-step programs help in making us a more aware species, a more aware person, a more aware dad, a more aware mom, a more aware colleague, a more aware lover. Consciousness. That is another antidote. That is how we are going to be able to shift the frequency on the planet. It's a game changer. Awareness and consciousness, game changer in your life and on the planet. Think of it. When you're going through a hard time, but you're able to self-reflect and look at it and look at maybe the meaning that it's having in your life, it is a game changer. So cafecito, everyone, cafecito, drink your water. Because as always, I move through a lot of concepts, but I repeat them. I repeat them so that you get it. We have been in the dark ages for over 40,000 years. And what do I mean by the dark ages? The dark ages where the superior-inferior paradigm dominated. So it's been a world of musical chairs of who is superior and who is inferior. And whoever is superior gets to subjugate, dominate, and be cruel, basically, and demean whoever is deemed, according to the trend, who's inferior. We have history all over the planet of this war frequency. If you saw my first episode, which is the lack matrix and the abundance matrix that I talk it over with Amanda Flaker, who was one of the people who helped me look at this human paradigm that we've been living under, which is the concept of lack. When we believe that we're in lack and limitation, which is how humanity has been run for the last 40,000 years, these dark ages, is the idea that there's not enough. You're not enough. Humans are not enough. There are not enough resources. So, of course, we begin a competitive Hunger Games race. Because if there's not enough, we have to compete. We have to beat each other, literally, with those two, beat as in beat each other and try to win. And if you're not enough and I'm not enough and humanity is not enough, then we can extinguish one another. 40,000 years, and that's been getting more and more intense. Let's say in the last 12 years, we've been seeing it. We've been seeing it politically. We've been seeing all this gunk. All the Netflix documentaries are about this paradigm of narcissism, of subjugation, of dominance. Now, this has been around for years. What's happening is that we are in a moment where we get to, through consciousness, through emotional calibration, through mental focus, choose something different. There is an awakening explosion. The pandemic brought an explosion. The veil is lifted. People are talking about trauma. People will not endure what they've endured in the last 40,000 years of humanity anymore. And this is the time to come in and leverage what's happening. Leverage this chaotic time, and the chaos isn't going to stop. But if we have awareness and if we start to go inside and master ourselves, watch, we will contribute to the shift. We are, as a humanity, taking back our power. And the power is exactly everything that I've spoken about. And the mastering, my loves, the mastering of compassion, care, and empathy. Because it is with those that we will help humanity continue into thriving. It'll catapult us out of the lack matrix into the abundance matrix, where there is enough and we are enough. Full stop. No more status quo, right? And what do we need for that? We need to ask questions to ourselves and to the paradigms that exist that's already happening. We need to choose and we need to decide. Write that down. We need to question, we need to choose, and we need to decide. That goes for our personal lives. Am I happy? Is this where I want to work? Is this who I want to be? Is this what my next 30 years look like? Ask the questions. Start choosing. And the scarier piece is start deciding. I actually say in Wealth from Within that decisions are an abundance code. When we decide, we're actually able to access more abundance for ourselves. It's an abundance code. So your mindset and humanity's mindset matters. We're in this great overlap of paradigms, of war frequencies, of energetic frequencies since the pandemic. And I would say since 2012, it started to move. Think of your life in 2012 or 2010 even. Just think of your life and how many shifts and changes have happened, even just inside you. I want you to think of it. Well, what's happened inside of you has happened on the planet. What do we need? We need anchors, we need beacons, we need lighthouses, we need light workers. We need that. We need us to be clean of trauma. We need us to be less wounded in order for do the work that is coming for all of us. All of us. A good question here is, well, what about the wars? And what about the suffering that exists on? What keeps creating more war? What keeps creating more of this frequency? Well, it's like anything. It's like your own personal life. It's like your children. It's when we don't learn from what's happened to us, when we don't see our wounds as a gift. If you drink and drive and crash the car and you continue to do that, something else is going to crash. Remember, in our up leveling, we're not getting tested. We're getting the opportunity to choose and hopefully choose better. The suffering and the wars that we are seeing in our neighborhoods, in our home life, out there, is because we haven't learned. When we learn from our hardships, we evolve, we up level. 12 steps, there's a saying for those of you who are 12 steppers, is, insanity. The definition of insanity is that we keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. We keep yelling at our kids, expecting them to then be sweet to us, as opposed to them just getting more angry and being yellers themselves. Whether it's you as an individual, whether it's your family, whether it's your tribe, whether it's your people, whether it's your government, whether it's humanity, if we're not learning from our hardships, they will show up again. If we're not questioning or examining ourselves, we're not learning, and that causes suffering. So check it out. This is really important. Cafecito, cafecito. This is really important. You're going to like it because you're going to get it. This is why we have high drama moments. High drama moments are the hitting bottom moments, are the car crashes, are the train wrecks in our life. Because when we're not learning, we need situations that have even more intensity, high drama intensity, to get our attention. And I want to venture to say that things like the pandemic, things like George Floyd, these are moments, things like what's happening in the Middle East, yes, are trying to get our attention. Will we learn? What are we learning? High drama, whether it's in your life or whether it's anywhere, is to get our attention. So there's so many of us still sleepwalking. We're still not asking ourselves. We're still not coming into awareness. So we need high drama. We need that fight. We need that fight. We need something terrible to happen. Hopefully not, to get our attention. Right now, remember, politically, governments, education, financial systems, all these systems are wacky. They're trying to hold on tight. Political parties trying to hold on tight to the old paradigms, except for the paradigm of war will not work. An eye for an eye, the paradigm of an eye for an eye will not work. It will lead us to more and more and more and more levels of high drama, and war will explode on the planet. What's happening is we're in this great overlap. We want to swoop in light workers, lighthouses, healers, empath leaders. We need to swoop in and leverage this moment. Once we become aware to what paradigms have been in control for 40,000 years, mainly the paradigm of subjugation, of superior, inferior, we can't unsee it. We can't go back. This is for you, my love. Remember, I want you to listen to this, whether you're someone who's thinking of the planet like I am or not, whether you're thinking of it in your house, whether you're wondering if, that last alcoholic blackout is going to make you learn, whether you're deciding that being so anxious all the time isn't allowing you to really enjoy the life that you've got, whether you're fighting with your spouse all the time, or how about this, having more and more silences in the house is really impacting your central nervous system. So it doesn't matter the way this plays out. It doesn't matter. Listen, this is for you as the individual, because I believe you as the individual are the one that's rippling the changes. I'm just happening, I've done some of that work. And I help people do some of the individual work. I'm just looking now at humanity and the planet. Things like this podcast is a motivation for us to become more conscious and more aware. So there's no more snooze button. It's go time. No more snooze button. No more saying, I'll do this later. We got to do it. We got to do it now. People are fearing things like nuclear war. I personally don't think that there's going to be nuclear war. I don't. I think in the end, humans want to keep living. We want to keep living. But how about we opt for no more high drama? What do you think? Let's opt for no more high drama. So remember that external chaos, one of the things that I teach the most, that meditation teaches, that I teach in Wealth from Within, external chaos does not mean internal chaos. Your gaze, wherever you put your gaze, matters. You get to decide that you do not want to be fed fear all day long through the news. That maybe you come from a culture where everything is anger and fear. Maybe you're the one in your ancestry that decides, I'm not doing this anymore. Certainly for me, that's one of my roles in my family. I'm stopping the trauma on one side and stopping the trauma on the other, so that the generation that comes after me, including my clients, including everyone around me, we're cleaning up this trauma. Perceptual field, I want you to write that down. My gaze matters. My perceptual field matters. And all perceptual field, it was originally from Gestalt therapy. And it's the idea that whatever we see in the background, let's say our past, or in the foreground, our future, wherever we lock our gaze is what our reality is going to be. So studies and studies and studies have shown that if anxious people go to a movie, they're going to lock in on the moments that feel awkward and scary and threatening, even though it might be a rom-com. It might be a romantic comedy. Depressed people will lock in. They will shift their gaze to the moment of the breakup. That's what they'll remember about the movie, or the rainy day, or the loneliness, even though it might have had a good ending. So where we are looking creates what we're seeing, creates our reality. I call it shift your gaze, choose. But in order for us to be choosers and deciders, we have to have self-reflection as a humanity, as a person. So even if finances, even if the financial world is in the midst of a lot, even if there's inflation, You as an individual, which is what we talk about all the time in Wealth from Within, we do not have to live in lack. We do not have to feel like there's not enough. And in Wealth from Within, we keep practicing noticing the abundance in our life through people, through moments, through walks in the park. We keep saying, this is where I choose to put my gaze. The empath leader is all about that focus. These are reminders of the frequency that we want to live in, thinking outside of the box that's getting fed to us. You can be the person who accesses your own frequency, which is where the podcast started. What are you choosing? Listen, one way to do it, you're like, but how do I do that, right? You ask yourself, what does my heart want? I'm very, very thinky. Most of you can see that. But sometimes when I say, in this situation, what does my mind want? What does my heart want? Are two different answers. Usually, my heart is more direct. It'll tell me what I'm feeling. My mind is more hypervigilant. So you can ask yourself, what does my heart want? What frequency does my heart want to live in? And it creates a huge impact. So even if you're like, I'm not a healer and I'm not a leader, maybe you're a mommy, maybe you're a daddy. We all know when mommy's not happy, the whole house feels it. We all know when daddy wants to be left alone, the whole house feels it. You are impacting the people around you. You are impacting your frequency. So it doesn't matter if you're not a light worker or a healer or a leader. Doesn't matter. You are determining your frequency. How do we do it? Choose your gaze, decide, emotionally regulate. All of that is here for you. All of that is here for you. Start with you. It all starts with you. Heal yourself, heal the planet. So ask yourself, where are you worn? Where am I fighty? What's my fighty energy? What triggers me? And then I feel it, I say yes to it, like we do in dynamic, and I decide, what do I want to do with this emotional messaging, with this emotional data? Where am I on the ag flap ladder? Where am I today? And how do I wake up? I call it frame the day. When I wake up, how do I frame my day? This is beautiful for you who parents, how you're framing your child's day. If you're rushing them and yelling them and screeching that they got to get into the car to go to school, you are framing their day with that frequency, with that energy. You're framing your day. Even with your lover, if you're like, hey, bye, see you later. What if you just took 3 seconds to kiss them on the mouth and say, hey, I hope you have a good day today. I'm going to try to have a good day. Even if you're rushed in the morning, you call. You say, hey, sorry I was so rushed today. Frame your day. Mornings, evenings. It establishes a frequency. Ask yourself, am I at war? Time it. Every hour, set the alarm. Set the alarm. You're setting the alarm for your steps, right? 10,000 steps. Every hour say, what am I feeling right now? What frequency am I in? What vibration is moving through my body? Sorry about that. Thank you, Chance. Thank you. Thank you. That's my dog. So that's his frequency when he sees people approaching. We are tasked right now with being better listeners. We are tasked with being better listeners to what's happening inside of us. And by doing that, we can provide more space, more witness to other people. We can soften the space between us. We can ask, What is my inner calling? This is something we do a lot in Empath Leader. What is my passion? What is my urge? What is my gut feeling? Am I listening to my inner child? Just this morning, I did a lot of inner child work. I was having some hurt feelings, and I just said, all right, if I was my little daughter today, what would I say? How would I help her have a good day or a sad day? How would I support her in these feelings? I had to listen. I had to listen to my inner child. Listen to what your desire is. When we listen to ourselves, we provide ourselves more space, and we can literally listen to others, to your partner, to your home. Remember that, and I want to encourage people in heaven on earth, every challenge brings a solution with it. There's two sides of the coin, and that goes for humanity. Every time that, for example, with global warming, there's a whole wave of people who try and bring the solution. With sex trafficking, there's a whole wave of people. With drunk driving, there's a whole wave of people. Every human challenge has the solution. We just have to know where our gaze is going. Usually, as a humanity, we keep looking and beating the drum to the challenge, to the problem. That's normal. That's how we obsess. But all the more reason to use the tools that we're talking about here to start mastering our minds and our feelings so that we can gently shift our gaze towards the solution, right? So two ends of the stick. What we don't want on the one end of the stick, actually, if we slowly look at it, leads us to actually what we want. Hey, I don't want this type of relationship. So what is the relationship that I want? Remember the questioning, the self-exploration. What is that I want? I don't want to work here anymore. So what's the other side of that coin? Personally, I don't want a warring frequency. I want a peaceful frequency. So what leads me there? I don't want a warring humanity. I don't want a subjugating humanity anymore. I don't want that. So my solutions have been the empath leader, wealth within, dynamic meditation, becoming a psychotherapist, so that I can have ripples, the books, humanity and diversity, joining with people, joining with other empath leaders, joining with Kaylee O'Keefe, who's on a mission for conscious leaders, soulful leaders that are driven by the heart. Every challenge has its solution embedded. Remember, too, that when we're looking at humanity, when we're thinking of paradigms and governments, for example, or nations, we don't see faces, because when we see faces, when we listen to each other, when we use our human technology, our operating system, our intimacy technology. I talk a lot, as you all know, talk a lot about intimacy, and intimacy is mammalian. It is mammalian to gaze, to use our voices, to use our touch, to be close to each other. Intimacy tech helps get us past the warring frequency. And that's human. Humans have humanity. That's why babies sleep all over us. That's why puppies crawl on their mama. Elephants, gorillas, that's what we do. We crave intimacy. We crave care. We crave empathy. So when we're listening and facing each other, when we're trying to listen, miracles. But first, it starts with you. It starts with self-compassion here, empathy for you, listening for you. But check it, right? When there are more of us, when there are groups of us, that's why this podcast is here. is this invitation to become a group of people, a mass of people. Bring your friends to this podcast. When we become a mass of people that slowly are starting to believe in the paradigm of heaven on earth, of living peacefully, joyfully, abundantly, of noticing all the ways that living on planet Earth is beautiful, on noticing music and fashion and art and care, on noticing mountains and sun and water, on noticing animals. When we start to become aware of the heaven on earth paradigm. See, I believe in predictions. Let me tell you how I believe it, and you're going to get it. When I say I predict heaven on earth, that means that my gaze, my perceptual field is going to lock in on that. I choose not to be obsessed by the news. I choose to lock my gaze on trauma rising, on the people who have made their wounds their gifts, on the people who are rising, on the people who are choosing excellence, on the people who are choosing their soul. When I decide that I'm going to predict that future, then what happens is I lock my gaze. If I say to you, listen, I'm predicting war, what you're going to do is lock your gaze on all the ways that war exists on the planet. So, yes, predicting means that I guide you, or you guide yourself when you're predicting. Watch, parents, be careful, because sometimes we doom our children's future by predicting that they're going to fail, by predicting a fearful future for them, because our gaze will lock there. You get that? That's what I believe, that's how predictions work, is that they actually make us lock our gaze. So ask yourself, what are you gazing at? What's your psychological, spiritual, emotional diet? What are you feeding yourself every day? Are you feeding yourself conflict, fear? Are you feeding yourself silliness and laughter and giggles? Are you feeding yourself connection and communion? If you've ever gone on my Instagram, you'll see what my stories hold. They hold to heaven. They hold trauma rising. Ask yourself, what am I feeding myself? The next 2 years are going to be super intense. They're going to be intense because of this chaotic overlap. They're going to be intense because there is a war of frequencies out there. And there are entities that want us. And entities, what I mean is organizations, institutions, traditions, governments. That's what I mean by entities that want our attention. And they work under certain paradigms. All you need to ask is this the paradigm I want to lock my gaze on? Is this what I want to feed myself? We are in a time of self-mastery. I'm just going to move into our conclusion. Listening emotions. In order to turn this ship around, we have got to move into the era of emotions, and we have got to amp up empathy and compassion. As a human operating system, I'm not even coming at it from a religious or spiritual point of view. We've got this as humans. We come with it. That's just psychological. It's scientific. That's where our mastery has to be. We are being asked to stand empowered in yourself. And all that means is that you are the chooser of your life. I always say the freest human is a choosing human. Anywhere in history, any government, any population, if you are a population that can choose your future, choose your life, you are free. You get to choose. So we are in a moment, and heaven on earth, and everything that I do is inviting you to see yourself as human. So whether I'm Colombian or not doesn't matter. Whether I'm Brazilian or not, or American or Chinese, what I'm saying that it's slowly time that we actually just see ourselves as human. Because if we don't, we're going to be at war for whatever reason. Choose the reason. Humans are always being at war with each other. Once we start seeing ourselves as human, as part of one body, the human body, and that what happens over there will actually impact here. Like what happened, when neighbors are fighting and they're pulling out guns, it's going to impact me. So what happens over there will have a ripple effect over here. But once we start saying, hey, I'm a human and you're a human, I'm a colorful human and you're a colorful human, because we all have colorfulness. I'm inviting you to this. And that is why we have more connectivity, whether it's through the internet. We are all seeing what each other does now. So it's time to think outside of the box. We need the tools. Where am I vibrating? We are under an illusion of limitation and lack and separation. And listen, one of the things that most connects us is our emotional operating system. When we're watching a movie, even if it's in a language that we don't know, in a country that we don't know, when we see people crying or heartbroken or when they lose, we're human. We get it. We have mirror neurons that help us identify a feeling in someone else, an action, a behavior. That's human. That's not Brazilian. That's not Colombian. That's not Japanese. That's human. The actors we most love, the songs we most love, all over, it doesn't matter what language, it doesn't matter where they're come from, are the actors that make us feel. Are the movies that make us feel? Are the books that make us feel? Are the lovers that make us feel? Because that is human era of emotions. And so please, I invite you, all of us, to start being like, I am part of the human body. So we want to value experiencing each other, because experiences lead to exploration and they lead to evolution. Experience yourself. Choose, decide, get out of the box, do it slowly, gather some stamina, emotional stamina. Talk to the people in my community. They've been doing it. And right now, when it feels chaotic, they're feeling peaceful inside because they've done the work. So, frequency wars require the practice of new frequencies. So, I want you to really think right now, what frequency do I want to be in? And I propose that it's easier to do it in a group. It's easier to do it with folks who are saying, I am like-minded and I want to focus, in my case, on heaven on earth. And this is why I created this podcast. It isn't religious. It isn't woo-woo. It isn't soft. It isn't weak. It's actually the idea of creating a new paradigm where we get to coexist and move out of the frequency of lack, of limitation, of war, of subjugation. So we can't do this alone. I always say we can't do this alone, so we won't. We won't do this alone. We don't feel alone. And personally, I think, listen, empaths, all humans have the emotional operating system. Empaths are just turbocharged. They just have it at a higher level. They have these high level of sensitivities, and you might be one. You might be one and not even know you're one, that you're highly sensitive, that you walk into a mall or you walk into a conflict-ridden home and you feel all of it. So empaths really need to learn how to calibrate so that they're not depleting themselves. But the well-regulated, well-calibrated, well-trained, which is why I do a training, empath is going to be able to help us in these new frequencies, in this new planetary paradigm that I am proposing that we choose in order to not be under so in the dark ages of war, because we're in it. We're in a war frequency. So now that we know the problem, embedded is the solution. Let's offer an alternative. Okay, thank you so much. This is intense. This is a lot. Next week, I'm going to have another empath leader on. The book comes out March 15th. And just so you know, like how it works, so dynamic meditation method is an actual workshop, and I teach you all sorts of tools. Tons of people have taken it. It's wonderful. Always ask me questions about this. The empath leader training actually is 12 weeks. It starts March 13th. Wealth from Within is once a month. It's on the second Saturday of every month, and everyone gets a free visit. Come visit us, see if it works, see if it's part of who you want to be right now, how you want to hold the frequency, because that's what we help each other do. We help each other hold new ways of having a frequency, of vibration, an emotional level. That's what we help us do. So empath leader training, March 13th, it starts. The book, yay, comes out March 15th. Dynamic meditation is coming in June. Let's finish the way I always finish these, which is by taking 3 breaths. I want you to lean back so that you really experience yourself in your body. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And just notice that you get gentler, quieter, and softer. And that's a frequency. Thank you so much for joining and helping me build this little village. And I'll see you next week, next time with an empath leader.